to episode 47 of the Bithell Games Podcast. I'm Alexander Slawinski.
And I am Mike Bithell.
Each week we talk games, what it's like to make games, and the random stuff we don't generally find time to talk about because we are playing and or making games. Show notes, Volume Coda, PlayStation VR, available now. Earthshape, available now. Stuff, available now.
It's all
everything.
everywhere.
Thomas Was Alone, available now.
Is Thomas Was Alone out?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I can talk about that. Volume is on PC and PlayStation 4. And if you have it on PlayStation 4, you can get the PSVR update that goes along with it.
Yep. Also on Vita.
And then Earthshape for your Daydream device. So yes, that's where we are. Our guest this week is Michael Futter, former news editor of Game Informer, who is now working on a special project with us.
Welcome.
Hi. Thank you. I love that my title is Special Project because it really is the most apt title I've ever had.
Well, I assume that's why you're sitting there in the black suit with the sharp tie and the gun on your hip. You know, it's there's a mystery kind of James Bond kind of air to you as we talk right now on Skype.
What are you? What exactly are you, Footer?
And we'll cover this in our What's Going On at the Studio section coming up in a bit.
Exciting.
What are you playing, Mike? Bithell.
We should streamline that right from the get-go. How did we do this last time you were on the podcast?
I think
it was Bithell and Futter. Yeah,
yes.
That's
Bithell
fair.
and Futter. Do.
Troy and Abed in the morning.
Oh, I need to watch more Community again. So what have I been playing? I've been playing a little game called Watch Dogs 2, which I'm having a really good time with. So I'm one of the 5 people, I think it was, who liked the original Watch Dogs. I thought it was fun. It was definitely, there wasn't much variety or choice in the game. Like, you basically had the greatest sin in game design. You had a button you pressed that made cool things happen around you. So it didn't feel like a very deep game, and the protagonist was boring as hell. But there was a good game there, it felt. And Watch Dogs 2 feels like it was made by people who have a similar kind of take on the original game to me. So they've expanded out the interactions. That button press is now a button hold, which gives you an array of options to do with items, which really opens up the gameplay and gives a lot more tactical depth. The protagonist is now a weird nerdy kid and his weird nerdy friends, and the humor is right up my alley, completely cheesy, very, very self-referential, very much enjoying itself. The whole thing reads as kind of a critique and a satire on the first game in a way that I really like. And it's just a lot of fun. I play it with a grin on my face. It's definitely more Saints Row than GTA now, which I think's a good thing.
So it's still a Ubisoft game, though, right? Like, there's feathers and things and all that.
Interestingly,
stuff.
They've pulled back from a lot of that stuff. It's going to be interesting to see if this is just a Watch Dogs thing or if this is going to also be how the next Assassin's Creed is. But like, there's no towers, there's no unlocking of areas. You can go anywhere in the game from the first moment. There's not really? That 4-hour tutorial. Yeah. In fact, the very first mission, to the extent that I think it might be a misstep, the very first mission is a massive drive from I can't remember it. Not San Jose, the other side.
Oakland.
Might be right across to central San Francisco. So it's so the game opens by just showing you how much space you have to move around in.
You mean like Oakland?
Could be. I'm not sure. But it's a big journey, and that's a nice way of setting it up. There is still, it's kind of a soft version of the Ubisoft design, so there are still tower equivalents that you can use to find things, but they don't not exist until you go up the tower. They're right there already, and you can play in a much more kind of straightforward way. It's also sillier. The physics of the cars make for bigger smashes of the cars. It feels a lot more fun. And yeah, the humor is wacky in a way that is so close to being awful, but actually is funny. There's I'm sure you've seen in the trailers, there's the character who has emoticons for eyes. Wrench, yeah. Who's just I found, like, it took me a couple of cutscenes to work out the tone, but then he's just a funny, weird nerd. You've got a really tasteful depiction of an autistic character, which is like genuinely like, you know, bravo kind of thing, you know, not a super genius, not a caricature or a piss take, but like genuinely, so far at least. I mean, there might be a scene later on that people are yelling about as they listen to this, but like, it feels like a very tastefully done thing. So there's a nuance to it, as well as doing big, silly, cheesy jokes, and it's bright and colorful. And for someone who I've never lived in San Francisco, but someone who's visited San Francisco enough times that I have a general sense of the layout, it's great because I can drive. You know, I went to Google's Daydream office in the game and found that, and it's hilarious because they've branded that office is branded with one of the evil corporations from the Watch Dogs universe. And I went there, and I went to like IGN, where IGN's office is, and I was just bouncing around all the locations and landmarks I know in San Francisco.
Are you accosted every 500 feet in the game as well?
You mean
by adoring fans?
Yes, by adoring fans.
I don't know what you mean necessarily, but like the population actually is like, that's the one area where it doesn't quite feel real, is that there's not as many people, there's not as many vehicles. It feels it's got that emptiness of open world games, which is weird when you see it with an area, because I don't know Chicago, I don't know California amazingly well, so like with the GTA game, like San Francisco feels a bit empty in it, which is a bit odd. But yeah, it's all in all, it's a lot of fun. It carries over some problems, but as someone who loves Ubisoft's open world design, and this is an interesting step forward for that, I'm having a great time.
Butter.
Last weekend, I decided to go through the Dishonored DLC. So I played Knife of Dunwall start to finish on Saturday, and then I played Brigmore Witches start to finish on Sunday. And when I play stealth games, I usually play I did a no-kill run in Deus Ex Human Revolution. I didn't try to kill anybody. I think dudes fell off roofs or whatever, and Dishonored one when I played it. But it was like, I'm just gonna kill everything. So I stabbed a lot of dudes, and I got the high chaos ending. But the story was really good.
So now, I never did Dishonored on high chaos because I like to keep things clean. Mm-hmm. So is it just rats everywhere?
No, I mean there's some rats in the DLC. It's not, the impact in the gameplay isn't as bad as it is in the first game. Like in the first game, you got a lot more weepers and you've got a lot more rats. If you go high chaos, so there's actually a real gameplay advantage to play low chaos in the first game. In the DLC, it's a lot more self-contained. There's three chapters and then 4 chapters, and they're a little bit more streamlined. There's still lots of exploration and lots of opportunity for infiltration, but the story is really good. Like, I had some problems with the original Dishonored. I thought the world building was really good. I was disappointed in Corvo because I thought like he had this cool backstory, and he had a personality up until the moment you took control of him as a player. And I thought that given that it was a revenge tale, I wanted to see more personality from him in the game, and I didn't get it. So that starts to get fixed in the DLC with Dowd being, having a voice and helping guide the story, even though you can do that non-lethal thing. One of the things I did love about the original Dishonored was you could be sinister in non-lethal approaches. So, like shipping that evil woman off to like work in the mines for the rest of her life or something like that. So it was still satisfying to play non-lethally. So you get that there still is that here in the DLC if you choose to do it. But my understanding is that in the sequel, and I haven't played it yet, both Emily and Corvo, I know Corvo is now voiced, but there is a lot more personality around the characters that matches this great world building they've done. So I'm really excited to play that. I will probably end up playing that on PC. I know that there
were some technical problems, weren't there? I think they said at launch. Yeah,
so I'm kind of waiting for a little bit.
There'll be a couple of updates, and they'll work that out.
Yeah.
I would have thought.
I mean, my computer, I built it at the beginning of the year. It's
with my bare hands.
Yeah, with my bare, it's the first time I ever built a computer. It was quite the experience. but I've got a 980 Ti and an i7 6700 in there. So I mean, most stuff where people say there's some problems, I don't necessarily run into that all the time. But there have been some games that have been some recent games that should be running a whole lot better than they are, and it's an optimization issue, definitely, because there are some games that come out like there have been some really well optimized games. Like Doom was extremely well optimized, Shadow Warrior 2 was extremely well optimized, and there have been some other games that that I've had some technical issues with that I'm not the only one.
Now, you've been consistently playing Blood Bowl, though, right?
Yeah, for 2 years now.
Talk a little bit about that, because that's one of those random games that you've been consistently playing it for years now.
This is the computer version, not the board game, or both?
Right.
Or?
It is the computer version. The board game, I actually don't have a whole lot of it, and I'm a huge board gamer. Huge board gamer. I have no interest in the miniatures game.
Okay.
I think the rules are too complicated. In a way that there are so many skills in Blood Bowl, and there are so many interactions, and having to deal with assists, and there's an app. They're actually re-releasing the tabletop game, and they're releasing it with an app to help you manage it. Like, that's how complex the game is. But I'm in a league. We play one game a week. The video game has a league system. It is imperfect, but it gets the job done for us. So the way the league system is set up is that it's round robin, but you can't do multiple rounds. So we have to, like, at the halfway point, essentially set up another competition, and then we have playoffs. Like, I got into the playoffs last year. I played a chaos team last year.
What is Blood Bowl?
Blood Bowl. Blood Bowl. Blood Bowl is Games Workshop's hybrid between Warhammer Fantasy and American football.
So it's orcs and humans and dwarves.
Orcs, humans, dwarves, chaos,
playing football.
Undead,
American
necromantic, high elves, wood elves, Norse, playing football.
It's a great idea. I mean, that's what I always come back to with it. Like, I've not played it, but, like, that's a brilliant, like, thing to do with the Warhammer universe.
And it's a lot of fun. I mean, the key to enjoying it is understanding that you're gonna get screwed by the dice. And even when you're not, like, actively getting screwed, like, there are times where, so you can, dice rolls are determined based on how strong your character is, how strong the other character is, how many assists there are, which it's kind of complicated. It takes a long time to figure out, like, how all the skills interact. But once you get into it, it starts to have this elegance to it that is never perfect because of the chaos of the rules and the chaos of the dice. I like to say that Blood Bowl is the pessimist's it should be the pessimist's favorite game, because you have to assume that everything is going to go wrong.
Isn't that XCOM?
Yeah, in a way, there is that element to it where you have to assume that your shots are going to miss. You have to assume that your soldiers are going to die, and it's the same thing in Blood Bowl. You have to assume that you're gonna lose guys. Like, I had a guy die last week, and so you can have an apothecary. And even the apothecary is random. So if you have a guy die, you use the apothecary, and the result could be just as bad. It could be death still. Like, you could waste the apothecary. There is some rubber banding in the system too, which is kind of interesting, such that if I have a higher team value than you, you're going to get petty cash to spend on things before the match starts. So you could buy extra rerolls, or buy extra or if you have enough, buy a star player or rent a star player for that game.
So, Futter, how many Warhammer games are coming out or have come out in the last, like, 6 months?
I'm gonna go with 332.
Because the hotness came out this week, right? With the 17 minutes or something like that of raw footage of, what is it called? Space Hulk?
It's Warhammer 40K, Space Hulk, Deathwing.
Okay.
All of these games have ridiculous titles. They have Japanese RPG titles.
No, what are the other ones? Let's go through the other ones.
Okay.
There's Infinite Fleet or something like that.
It's Battlefleet Gothic, which was a board game. Battlefleet Gothic Armada. Now, there's also an iPad version or an iOS version, which is Battlefleet Gothic something else, which is actually the tabletop game with dice rolls and everything. And it's an extremely complicated game. Games Workshop doesn't do simple tabletop games. Hold on, let me just look at my Steam library because I have like 7,000.
It is amazing that the audience sustains that. Like, it's clearly a very, very engaged fan base, right? You are going to pick up all of these games.
So looking at my library, and by far I don't have all of the Warhammer games. And I just typed in Warhammer. So Warhammer End Times Vermintide, which is a Left 4 Dead style game in the Warhammer fantasy universe where you fight Skaven. And it has it's got that AI director thing where chests are in different places and enemies pop up in different places, which is neat. Then, of course, there's Total War Warhammer, which came out this year. Dawn of War 2, which are older, but Dawn of War 3 is being developed right now.
Did the Total War Warhammer, that came out?
Yeah, it's out.
Not early access, but out.
No, it's out.
Okay.
Then I've got Warhammer 40K Deathwatch, which is a strategy game, which is a tactical game like XCOM. Warhammer 40,000 Regicide, which is a chess game, which you can either play as chess or with the rules. Regicide is a game that's played in the Warhammer 40K universe. Warhammer Quest, which is an adaptation of a board game. Then there's Mordheim, which is a strategy game. Then there's Battlefleet Gothic. There's more. Like, I don't have all of them.
Regicide is a great rename for chess.
Yeah.
A very Warhammer rename of chess, right?
And
I like that.
And you can either play it as chess or you can play it as the Regicide rules.
That's nice.
Which is neat. But the one that I'm really excited about, Vermintide is very good. And that's the tricky thing with Warhammer games is it's sometimes really hard to figure out, like, is this game going to be a good use of the license or is it not gonna hit? The one that I've been super excited about, and I saw in preview at Gamescom, is Warhammer 40K Space Hulk Deathwing, which is I believe 4-player co-op set in the 40K universe on a Space Hulk, which is a derelict ship, and it's Space Marines of different classes with different gear that you can upgrade versus Tyranid, which are like these all-consuming aliens in the Warhammer universe. So I'm pretty excited about that, and that comes out on December 9th, and is available for pre-purchase on Steam, and you get beta access and a discount and some.
I've been playing Battlefield. It's awesome. There.
All right.
And now it's time for what's going on at the studio. Mike Bithell, you put up a post this week that covered you hadn't done one in a year. You hadn't done one since I officially.
I'm not a big sharer, Alexander. I tend to keep quite quiet, keep myself to myself, not express my views publicly on any real detail. It's good. But yes, I did. I went up. We've lots going on. That's why.
So the big one was the first acknowledgement that Earthshape is out.
It is
on Daydream
and doing well for us as well. Like, it seems to be going to a good start, which is great. And
we're learning how mobile works, which is very different from how console works.
Yeah, it seems to be they build momentum rather than like dropping off momentum, which is a big lesson for us. So while we had a decent start, it seems to be carrying on. So it's good. So we're going to keep doing stuff. We've got the big updates coming. And the updates are getting more and more ambitious as we realize just how much better than me Nick Tringali is at programming, which is great.
Nick Tringali being the person we brought on board to take
the guest last week. Was it last week Nick was on, or was that the week before? Can't remember.
I think it was last week.
It's all blurring together, isn't it? But no, he's great, and he's doing great work. And the fact that he's also an artist is just fantastic, because he'll make something for an update, the art for it, and then he'll code it, and then he'll animate it, and it's just in the game. And it's like, oh wow, that's pretty good. It's one-stop shop. It's good.
But we really should take a second here to point out that typically with PC releases or console releases, it is very much like you've got your big opener, and then it trails off, and you've got your sales that come in between there, but it's not riding this wave that seems to be a much more mobile thing, whether that's because of the way it's structured, because it's typically there's free to play titles, but then there's also pay for titles, and it's that consistency of being out there, of updating, of doing things with it. It's just a different style.
It is, and I in a way I wonder if we've been naive with traditional PC and console games, that maybe this is something we should incorporate in future projects elsewhere as well. I'm definitely not announcing anything, but like, it definitely seems to have worked well, or is starting to work well in the mobile space for us, and you definitely see other developers doing it. It's just something we've done these kind of big chunks of content. So Thomas Was Alone got DLC, Volume got Coda, but maybe these smaller, more regular updates are something that works for us. So we'll see how it goes. We're gonna keep an eye on it and learn, which is always the point.
So the next thing was Futter joining the team.
Who?
Yeah, you. Hi, Mike.
What?
You got a job. Congratulations.
Oh my god.
Yay. We're announcing it now on the podcast. Well, no, we wrote it down on the blog a week ago.
I mean, as you put it, yeah. I mean, as you put it here, I was hired to handle the boring stuff, and now you've gotten my Mirror Universe counterpart to handle something else.
But what was I clear about in that metaphor, Alexander?
I'm the evil universe incarnation.
The challenge here is that Futter has a beard. So the assumption people would have is that Futter is the evil version. And it's very important to me that the audience at large understands that Futter's the nice guy and you're the evil guy. It's a better way of doing it. No, the problem with boring work is when you get someone who's good at it to solve it, it creates more boring work.
It does,
because we've had a very good year, and we've had a lot of kind of opportunities and things that I wouldn't have had time to deal with. Definitely didn't have time to deal with before Alexander joined. But the problem with opportunity is that it creates new opportunities, and we needed some more help. So very welcoming to Futter. It's very cool to have him here, and it means that I get to keep making video games. So I'm happy.
I've had the very dark thought recently. That
you have lots of dark thoughts, though, Alexander,
I know,
let's be honest.
But this one is particularly dark.
Yeah.
I've had the very dark thought recently that I'm going to need an assistant, and I never thought that I would get to that stage in my life. But with everything that's going on, that might be a thing. I don't know, but I'm a lot of good things are happening, and I'm glad that Futter's on board to do something. Which
a special thing,
which we will hopefully be talking. Well, no, we're gonna talk about it.
Don't put a date on it. Okay, yeah, next year. That's
no, we're gonna talk.
Next year's
about
vague
it
enough.
Next year.
We're gonna announce the announcement next year.
Yeah. And yeah, that's we'll see where it goes from there. Then the next thing.
Wait, but I just want to be real clear about something.
What?
Yeah.
Am I your assistant? Is
No.
that how our relationship works?
No, it's really not.
In Alexander's mind, we're all his assistants. It's fine.
It's so true.
The other thing that was said last year was that you were looking into doing a studio space, and due to geopolitical events, that became a bit complicated.
It did,
and we continued on with the work. Things. We got another game out in the meantime.
You gotta keep swimming, haven't you?
Yeah. But we are looking again at that prospect, and given now the types of game we are looking to do, that sort of makes it necessary for me to move to London.
So that part's definitely happening. You're moving to London, bit that's going to be great. I'm going to be very cautious about talking about the growth, like the getting the studio, all that stuff, because I'm worried if we do this twice, if we say twice we're doing this, and then we don't, then it starts to become a running joke. So, but yes, I think that might happen this year. I think there might be there's definitely some of the projects we're thinking about doing next. It makes sense.
I think we were pretty clear in the post that we're going to find the balance that works for the company and for the way things are going. That's pretty much it. I will be over actually next week's episode will be recorded in London,
probably in my living room,
probably. And then I will be moving over there at the beginning of 2017.
Things are going well. It's very exciting.
1, 2, 3. I want to thank you for reading the freedom mail again. Thank you for reading the freedom mail again.
Dear Mike and Alexander, I'm a third-year architecture student at the University of Plymouth in the United Kingdom. I have loved games from a young age, and the understanding of three-dimensional space that I gained from Minecraft was part of the reason that I chose to read architecture at university.
Yep, you read things. You can read things. You can study. You can read. Is that not an American phrase? Would you?
Oh, is that how you say study, or like?
Well, study is. No, it's a synonym. Yeah, you'd say you could study something. You can read it. Do you not say that? Like, do you not say I read English at Harvard or whatever?
No.
Oh, okay. Pavement.
Lifts.
Elevator. Lift. It's lift, isn't it? Elevator's American.
Yeah.
It all blurs together. I'm a citizen of the world. Carry on.
I am now coming to the end of my degree, and I'm looking to see what options there are for jobs post-graduation. Is there a place for me within the games industry? And if so, what skills would I need to focus on to improve or learn? Now, to be clear, his email goes on for about 5 more paragraphs. So I have selected one in particular that hopefully will highlight here what's going on. So over the past year, I've been including aspects of games in my course projects. My essay from the end of last year was a critical analysis of Las Vegas and how it could be replaced by virtual reality in the future. This was completed through the inclusion of virtual reality's key aspects of room scale in addition to immersion, as well as online gaming and gambling. The final architectural proposal during my second year was a center to improve the social well-being of Truro in Cornwall through interaction with games, virtual reality, and games development. During this project, I started to use Maya to create my visualizations, as well as create 360 environments to experience through Google Cardboard. In this current year, I have improved my skills with Maya, creating more complex designs, as well as using XGen to create typography. Feedback of the 360-degree visualization highlighted how they could be too static, so I have started experimenting with walkable spaces in Unity and can be traversed through by using a Google Project Tango tablet. Oh, this is a lot. This interaction with Unity is the first time I have had to use coding, and hopefully over the coming year, as my projects become more complex, I will be able to improve my comprehension of it, especially as I start to learn parametric design in January. Throughout all the projects, I have developed skills of photo and video editing on Photoshop and Premiere, respectively. Any help or advice on how I could use my skills within the games industry, or are there any particular areas that I could look to develop further, would be appreciated. Yours sincerely, Christian W. Christian, I don't know what Mike is about to say, but it sounds like you're on a path, so you keep on keeping on, Mike.
He's on many paths, I think, which is both a strength and a weakness, I think, potentially. So yeah, I can speak about this, definitely. I was a level designer for many years, and I think level design is the most obvious place for an architect in game design. So a level designer is the person who designs the spaces that you move through in a video game. A lot of the lessons you're learning in architecture are applied almost directly to level design. It's a space, and as an architect's focus with any kind of building is always, what's the space used for? How do I enable that use and encourage the correct use. And that's really all level design is on some level anyway. So it's a different use for space, but it's still using a lot of those same lessons. And you can always tell how every level designer goes through a phase where they realize this, and then they buy like 20 architecture books because they realize that there's this enormous wealth of knowledge that they've maybe not thought about. This is a problem that architects have been solving since someone put 2 bricks together. So people have been worrying about this stuff. So there is a lot of knowledge that you're gaining every day, which is useful to level design on the kind of theoretical level. There's a few caveats I'd say, and a few things that, to consider here. One is very few people walk into a level design job in the games industry. I was very lucky in that I did, but that was more to do with how scarce level designers were and how well the games industry was doing at the point where I was on the job market. It says much more about that than my skill level. I was awful. I really was. Most level designers come through QA. So you will go and become a QA guy at a game, which is not an exciting or glamorous job. Testing, trying to find bugs, running the same level over and over again for weeks, trying to find any kind of problem. Or they come in through modding, so that's making levels for games. So you're theoretically equipped. On the tech side, it sounds like you're using 3D, you're using Maya, you're using Unity, you pointed out, you're starting to play with VR stuff. That's great. I would put some caution on that and this is from personal experience, is don't get complacent with that. If you're playing with those tools, that's going to be very impressive to those around you on your degree. Your lecturers, your other students are going to be like, wow, he's using computers. That's awesome. That's a risk that you can kind of get very proud of being the person using this cool tech, when actually, like, you need to be amazingly good at this stuff because this is going to be your day-to-day job if you work in the games industry. My suggestion would be that you continue down that road, but push yourself. Don't get complacent just because you hit what your coursework kind of requires, or even exceed what your coursework requires. Be thinking of how you're building these skills towards being a game designer. The specific projects you were talking about there, of the Las Vegas VR thing, and it was improving a space through the incorporation of interaction. That's great, and that's really interesting work. That's not going to make for good video game levels, though, because those are spaces with other purposes in the real world. So I would encourage you to start thinking about, okay, how does architecture and the lessons I know about architecture apply to a first-person shooter level, or an open world game, or a racing game? Because a track in a racing game is architecture as well. And then the final step there is start making some levels, start modding, start creating stuff. There is lots of entry-level stuff. Volume has a lovely level creator that would allow you to start building stuff really quickly and using those architectural skills to design spaces for gameplay to happen. But then, using Unity is good. I would suggest using an engine or a map maker for a game that already exists, because you don't want to learn how to program necessarily. You just want to learn how to make content. And then I would also take some of the critical skills you've developed that are helping you to do analysis of existing buildings and things, and apply that to games. One of the best job applications I ever received when I was recruiting, when I was looking over CVs for level designers, was a 10-page essay about the placement of guns in a specific Quake level. And it blew us away. Me and the other designers who read it were just like, because it was literally mapping out the paths and routes that were available to all the players in the game, why the rocket launcher was placed in exactly the position it was, and why there was nowhere else it could be. It had to be there, and it was the perfect choice. That's architecture analysis. That's the skill you're probably already learning. Apply it to video games. Don't use the trappings of video games necessarily. Use the actual games. Go and find a great level from a video game and really work out the architecture and work out what the level designers have done there, and become very good at talking about that, because that's going to be very useful in interviews. But also, just make stuff. Make some stuff for games. Make some levels. I'm trying to think of games with accessible level editors in the current generation. Definitely things like Little Big Planet. Volume does it. Can you think of
Snap Map?
Snap Map in Doom, there you go. That would be brilliant. Like, and the great thing about Snap Map in Doom is that it's accessible, but you can also drill down and go like super creative with it. So yeah, that's my suggestion: is start building stuff like that, and start building a portfolio, because you're going to be very interesting to someone interviewing you in terms of having that architecture background is going to give you an edge. But you also need to actually be able to show, here's a cool first-person shooter level I made, or here's an interesting map I made for this kind of game. Start building that stuff in your own time, probably. Unfortunately, I don't know if you're going to be able to do that, put that towards your coursework. But that's my tip, yeah, is you have this amazing skill set, you just need to create the connective tissue that helps someone recruiting you to understand that you are able to apply those skills to video game design. But level design definitely feels like the right kind of place for you to be aiming.
Hello, Mike and Alexander. I am a student in computer science who is an avid gamer and who has experimented in game development. A topic that I believe has not been touched on enough in general is gamification. This is not a new idea, but has become more apparent through a lot of online sites using leaderboards and loyalty systems to retain and grow users. I want to know what are some of the most important things to take from games that we can apply to other parts of our lives or projects. Thank you so much, Graham. All right, I'm going to take this one. From a business perspective, stop laughing, Mike.
I'm not laughing. I have nothing but respect for the person asking the question. To put my laughter in context, I'm a very outspoken critic of gamification in all its forms. I don't think it works.
Understood. And here's where I will be taking this.
Okay.
From a business perspective, gamification is nothing new. If you're a business major or go for your master's, the term you'll learn is customer retention systems or maybe customer loyalty programs. Futter, am I forgetting other
affinity programs?
Affinity programs, there we go. Those little cards at GameStop, gamification. At the beginning of this decade, you had academics and other folks tossing around the term gamification in this sort of it was like a glorious breakthrough, and frankly, a lot of those same people have actually moved away from that term since then. What I'd prefer to focus on is a good user experience or interface design. That I absolutely believe games can properly influence other elements of our daily lives. Games have the ability to put a wealth of information cleanly in front of us. That's usually a significant element of the jobs, is taking a lot of information and making it clean for the user to understand it. So I look at something like a tycoon game, and then I look at something like my stock portfolio, and I ask, why can't my portfolio look as clean or be as interactive as it is in a tycoon game? So that's where I would take this gamification idea. If there was something that I would want gamified, it is not these marketing aspects, which genuinely have been around for a long time and many business people have used them.
Can I jump in a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I would also say that while those techniques are used, so that's the idea of giving people points, basically, an endorphin rush of we give you something, air miles, Starbucks coffee cards, whatever. While these have existed for, I think, decades, right? Definitely air miles have existed. I think that was where the innovation was, decades ago, and everyone else kind of caught on. The bulk of studies and research available shows that these motivators don't actually work. They are extrinsic motivations. They don't make the act more rewarding. There are a subset of people who are really susceptible to these things, where they will have, every loyalty card and everything, and they will absolutely try and game the system. But in the main, most people, it works on for a short time and then stops working. And the reason for that is that people are ultimately very intrinsically motivated. They want things because they want things. They want a Starbucks coffee because they like the taste of Starbucks coffee. You're not going to be able to convince them to buy more Starbucks coffee long term by giving them points. You will in a short term, but ultimately people fall off the systems. This is also why diets don't generally work, because people are very good at maintaining these patterns for a short time, but then it falls off. Gamification doesn't make real life more fun or more rewarding. It doesn't. It can't do. If you think about it, if it did, then it would be terrifying for humanity, right? For our future. So for that reason, for me, it always seems like a cul-de-sac. The reason games are fun and the reason people love playing games is nothing to do with the fact that they score points. Points allow them to measure and judge their fun or feel a sense of achievement because they're getting better. But if the actual activity is not shooting aliens, it's, doing your laundry, then ultimately people always fall off of those patterns and it doesn't really work. And that's kind of a good thing, I think, that we're not so easily manipulable. There's an arrogance to gamification and the way gamification is often talked about that frustrates me because it's people who think they're cleverer than most people, and that's not usually true.
So to answer Graham's question, wanting to know some, the most important things from a game that can be applied to other parts of lives.
I think you're right. User experience, creating interaction that is interesting, also getting out of the way. Video games, often are about, you make things that are boring irrelevant. You work out ways to make information flow very easily. I think you're absolutely right in your answer, Alexander. Like, that's the stuff to take, not a score screen or collecting achievement points.
Futter?
I'm trying to think of any instance where a non-game thing has hooked me. The only thing I can think of, no, that's because I pay for it.
Yeah, that's it, right? That's the thing, is they always put these point systems on, but it's stuff that you actually would have done or enjoyed or would have seen value in anyway.
Right, like I pay for Amazon Prime, and I use Amazon a lot. Like, I get my money's worth out of Amazon Prime.
Yeah, that's because you've made an investment. What's it called? Alexander, you'll know this. The fallacy. Is it the gambler's fallacy, right? Like, I've invested some money in this, so I'm going to keep using it. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Sunk cost?
Sunk cost, that's the one, yeah.
Yeah. Gambler's fallacy is something
that's different, isn't it? Yeah, that's the I've been very unlucky many times in a row, so I'm going to keep doing
be lucky
this.
that next time.
Yeah, exactly. Next time I'm going to get it. That's the gambler's
fallacy.
fallacy. Yeah, okay.
So, but I'm trying to think of like any point systems I use that are free.
But it's like I have an Amazon, right? Like I have the Amazon credit card, right? The Amazon credit card doesn't make me spend. It makes me spend the same thing that I would. It's just I now get points that I can use at Amazon, which I would be using anyway.
Right.
That's the thing. The successful ones are the ones that support. I guess there you go. There's the lesson. Support someone's existing behavior rather than trying to manipulate and change it.
I love that.
You're encouraging and support, but that point system is letting Alexander see that what he's doing is worthwhile, but it's not changing his behavior.
Yeah, it's more about increasing the frequency of behavior than changing behavior entirely.
But even frequency, like every study shows that you get a short-term boost, but you don't. People fall off of these. If someone's not getting that real-world endorphin rush from an activity, they're not going to keep doing it. And yeah, points don't do it. But yeah, rewarding or acknowledging a habit, right? It's a communication thing. I think for a lot of companies like Amazon, like you build a relationship with them because of your repeated activity. So I guess reflecting that is a part of it, but it's a much more subtle and indirect solution. And the people who my thing I always come back to with gamification, guys, is if you're right about this, why are you not a multimillionaire? Yeah. You should be. If you're this good at manipulating human beings, then you should be David Tennant in Jessica Jones. Why are you not? Is it because what you're saying is nonsense? And I think generally it is.
If you have a burning question about games, game development, or just about the complexities of the universe, you can send those two questions to us via contact@bithelgames.com. That's contact@bithelgames.com. through the YouTube comments of the show, or on Twitter by pinging at Mike Bithell, at Slewinski, or Futter, what's yours?
At Futterish.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Bithell Games Podcast. We can always use your support, so please provide reviews and 5 stars on iTunes, likes and subscribes on YouTube, and positive reinforcement on whatever other platforms you're hearing this show on whenever possible. This podcast was produced very heavily this week by Jonathan Downen. We'll be back next week. I'm Alexander Slewinski. Thanks again, and get in the last word. Oh, wait. Thanks, Futter, for being here, by the way.
Love you.
Get in the last word, Mike.
Menswear.